All right, let's talk about solipsism. I think this is going to be pretty short. This is more of a conversation that, I mean, it might help me understand things a little better about myself or about solipsism. I don't think so, but I feel like having this conversation to explore that idea verbally, but also for it to be a little educational. So, really, this is being sparked because being solipsistic isn't anything I feel could be hurled at you as an insult or a negative thing, because solipsism inherently is neither positive nor negative. My argument would be that it's actually pretty factual, and there isn't a lot of room for debate, but there's always room for debate. So, like, let's just talk about it. Basically, my understandings of solipsism is that it's like a philosophical idea that I can't know the hearts and minds of other people. Therefore, because I cannot know someone else's mind, I don't know that I don't know that they even, I can't trust, I don't know that they exist. There's a couple things that are going to happen here, and one is that we're going to have to get into simulation theory, which I don't like, but it seems necessary to discuss here. And the other one is that perception is reality, which I like a little more. Yeah, so where do we start? So, again, solipsism. I can't know that you exist. No is the key word. Part of solipsism is saying, part of it is saying that I know that I exist. I know my consciousness. I'm aware of myself as a human being, and that's all that I'm aware of. And I live in the world where other human beings presumably exist, but we can't know that for sure because I don't feel their consciousness. I only feel mine. I only understand my own self and my consciousness. Therefore, I don't know that those people exist. Now, the reason that gets into simulation theory right away is because it's almost like saying those people are just I mean, it doesn't have to go to simulation theory. It could go to other places like schizophrenia or whatever else, that like those people may not exist and they're just a figment of my imagination, and that's that I'm the only person that exists and everyone else, they aren't real. You could go that far with it, for sure. But yeah, I don't like simulation theory because it scares me. I don't want to think about like, oh yeah, I'm just like a player in a video game, you know? And this is all whatever. Anyway, we can get into that, but we're not going to. So the other thing is that perception is reality. So if I perceive, whatever I perceive is going to be my reality. That I am somewhat in control because of things like belief and faith. Whereas solipsism kind of relies on facts in a way, where it's like, I cannot know your mind. You could tell me your mind, you could tell me your heart, you could tell me your feelings. I still don't know that those things are true. So like, that's another way to look at it, is like, I just have to believe that you have feelings and things like I do, and that you operate the same way but nobody does. But I mean, like, I have to believe just because, for some reason, that you are also human and that you exist, and you exist in the same way that I exist, and that's a thing. Like, I think that most people operate in a way where they believe other humans exist. I do that, but there's times where I kind of detach in a really disassociative way, which is part of the reason we're talking about this, where it really freaks me out to, like, there's a name for this and I forget what it is, but it freaks me out to like think about the fact that everyone else has their own consciousness and they're all walking around feeling their feelings and thinking their things in their head. And it's just like really overwhelming to think about, like, well, my life is like huge. Like, this comes to what some people I think is really negative about solipsism, and it's that it's so focused on the self. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's focused on themselves. Like, everybody is. You have your own consciousness. You are acting in your best interest to what will sustain your life. Like, it doesn't mean that you are selfish to the degree where you want to do harm to others to get ahead. There's a balance, right? But I mean, solipsism is about the self. It's about knowing or believing that you exist and that you're unsure of everyone else. And I mean, you could take that in a bunch of different ways, of like unsure of their existence, or just unsure of their motives, unsure of what they're saying, and untrustworthy basically of everyone else. And I'm not saying that I follow solipsism to the T, because I don't. And I kind of fell into the term. It wasn't like I was researching philosophical ideas to put myself in, and I was like, solipsism, that's the one. No, it was just like, I don't know where I heard the term one day, or I read it or something, and then I began to think like that, I researched it a little bit, and I was like, that kind of makes sense. That's kind of how I feel, that we can't know these things. That's really obvious that I can't know other people's minds and hearts and thoughts and feelings and whatever, and that I'm also only aware of my own consciousness. I just have to put a trust and faith and believe that other people are conscious the same way that I'm conscious. And how do you do that? It's kind of like the Descartes thing, right? Like, I think, therefore I am. And it's like, okay, but I don't think for others, therefore they are not. Like, I don't think for them. Like, I can't think their thoughts. I just trust that they're thinking their own thoughts, and I'm thinking my own thoughts, and we all have thoughts and feelings, and we're all human, and there we go. But there's some base to solipsism that is just it is so about the self that, like, I feel that. I feel like, yes, I think about my stuff more often than I think about other people's stuff. And I think that if you're honest, then you would, I feel, and I mean, there's probably loopholes to this, and maybe that's why I'm discussing it. I think there's things that I'm missing. But if you're honest, isn't that what everyone's doing? Like, you are thinking about other people in relation to yourself. You're not thinking about other people, period. How can you? But again, this is maybe the way my mind works, and maybe it's true. Maybe it proves this true in the aspect of, like, other people's consciousness are different than my consciousness, or what is consciousness. But I mean, the perception is reality thing too, of like, well, I perceive my consciousness to be this way, or it's like someone who perceives empathy in a certain way, and then you realize, no, that person's a psychopath. Like, that's not what empathy is. They think that empathy is this one thing, but it's really not. And they don't have empathy the way that the majority of humans would understand empathy to be. So maybe that's what's happening with me and my consciousness and my mind and brain and heart and soul, that I just can't comprehend. I don't understand whatever, right? I lost my train of thought. Perception is reality. That was part of it. Was that, yeah, I'm perceiving things to be a certain way, and therefore that's what's real to me, but it might not be what's real for everyone else, or how everyone else operates, or whatever. So, yeah, I feel like we all do things in our own best interest. Again, it doesn't have to cross into a horribly negative place where we throw people under the bus, in order to get what we want, or that we cross a line of certain types of selfishness. But I believe in the self. I believe that what we do is try to, people that I value and the things that I value are personal growth, right? So I guess some people don't necessarily consciously work on themselves or to grow. They just exist in this place without really accomplishing much for themselves. However, I do think that they still see the world through a lens that is theirs. So how could you not inherently be focused on yourself when you see the lens through it's your lens. You see the world and other people through your lens. I think, in a way, that if you were to make a case against solipsism, I don't know what it would be necessarily, so I'm curious. But I think that part of solipsism, I mean, I see a link here, and I don't think it's linked anywhere else, but like, I'm going off the rails, so maybe I need to come back in here. You're unsure of other people's existence or consciousness because you cannot think their thoughts. You cannot feel their feelings. Therefore, you are aware that you exist and what you perceive to be this existence. You're aware of that existence and that you are living in it from what you perceive to be life. So you still, these are still, there's no facts at all here, to be honest, I guess, to contradict what I was saying earlier. But these beliefs and these thoughts are what you have based on your perception, thus what is creating your reality. But you can't have that type of justification or evidence for anyone else's reality of being if we're using I think therefore I am to base our perceptions. That's it. See you at another time.